Good evening. Welcome in to Somebody Sweet That Is Not Mine and Somebody Sweet That Is Not Drew King's, overlooking Mizzou Arena, Missouri tonight, an 83-75. I think I have that right, winner. Yeah, I have that right, winner over Ole Miss in a game that was probably easier than we would have expected it to be, and somehow not as easy as it felt like it should have been. Drew and I will get to that as we go along. Billy Derrick running the show. Appreciate all your guys' comments and questions in the chat. We will get to those as well as your voicemails. Before we do that, want to remind you that when you're hurting, your time matters, and so does your ability to recoup some of the financial resources that you might need to deal with your issues. When that is the case, you want to get in touch with our friends at the Bruning Law Firm. They have your back. Their talented team of personal injury lawyers are going to use their data and experience to achieve real results fast. Smarter approach, better results. Get the relief you deserve quickly, so you can get back to life. Get in touch with the Bruning Law Firm today for a free consultation at 573-400-2796. Once again, that is 573-400-2796. Drew, again, like, it felt like it should have been over sooner than it was, but an 8-point win in this game, in this league, is pretty good. So I guess just kind of overarching thoughts on this one.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, I came into this one thinking it was going to be pretty competitive, right? I think Ole Miss is a good team. They were down Dre Davis today, who's one of their better players, but Mizzou didn't really let them get into it very much. They had a 8-0 run to start the game, but Mizzou came back pretty quick, and I don't think Ole Miss really ever took the lead again after that. So, just a pretty good wire-to-wire performance from everybody on the team, except at the free throw line, which we could talk about a little bit.
At least at the free throw line for the first 35 minutes of the game.
Yeah.
Certainly. But
yeah,
look, this is the attitude that we talked about. I mean, this was a good week for Missouri.
Yeah.
Sure, you'd have loved to beat Texas and be 2-0, but A&M went down there today and blew a 22-point lead. Kentucky lost at Vandy. Chris Beard's team has now lost 3 games in a row, and he said, look, you win 2 in a row.
The sun's not going to come up again.
Yeah, you win 2 in a row in this league, people want to throw you a parade, and you lose 2 in a row, and the sun's never coming up again. This is life in the SEC. Missouri is 5-2, and look, it's not early anymore. Next Saturday, we'll be halfway through the conference schedule. If the conference tournament started today, Missouri would be the 3 seed.
Yeah. I mean, like, it's hard to understate how good they've been so far. Gabe, this is going to count as their 3rd quad 1 win. They're 7-4 against quad 1 and 2 opponents. Like that. Fluky teams don't do that, right? Like, this is starting to become a pattern where Mizzou is able to beat some pretty good teams. And it's like I've been saying, Gabe, like, get sweeps, and just as importantly, don't get swept. And I think that's what they did today. They made sure they didn't get swept at home today, which was really important.
Yeah, and Chris Beard said it after the game. Ole Miss's coach, he said, guys, this is a good team. They have legitimate SEC talent. They have a very good coach. You have a home court advantage. He said, this is not coach speak. I think this is one of the best teams in the country. Now, he did not say how many, right? Best 20, best 6. I don't know. But this is a legitimate basketball team, no question. And as John said, I mean, John said the same thing that Chris Beard said after this game. If Caleb Grill and Tamar Bates shoot like that, Dennis Gates is going to have a whole lot of really good nights.
And you brought it up in the press conference. It's kind of like Mark Byington said after the Vanderbilt win. He was like, we want them to take those tough contested shots. They were just making them against us. And both guys caught fire today. That's kind of what I'm going to write about after this show's over. But I think that somebody said in his post-game interview, Tamar Bates was saying like we didn't want to let the Texas game beat us twice, and I felt like that was kind of the team wide attitude was.
Can I address this comment on the screen real quick right now? Michael says the refs had money on Ole Miss. Look, I'm just going to tell you, Missouri shot 39 free throws and Ole Miss shot 18. I do not think, I think that was fair. Also, 14 of those were in the last 4 minutes. But even before that, Missouri had shot 25 free throws. Ole Miss had shot 18. I think the refs sucked. I think they kind of lost control of this game. But guys, let's start every show saying this and every post-game reaction saying this. In every game in the history of every sport, every fan thinks the ref was against their team. You either win in spite of the refs or you lose because of them. We have established that. That is never going to change. And on very rare occasions, like had Missouri lost the Florida game, I will go there with you. In a game in which Missouri shot 21 more free throws than the other team, I will absolutely not go down that road during this show. So, Drew, am I wrong there?
No, you're not wrong. I mean, there were some calls that Mizzou fans could be upset with. Oh, sure. But, I felt like you said, if you're getting 11 more free throws than the other team, I mean, I don't know that
21 more.
I'm sorry, 21 more. Thank you. I don't think the refs have money on your opponent that night.
Right. So we understand that's just going to happen. We get it. You guys can talk about it all you want. That's fine. I don't have a lot of interest in that.
Hang on, Gabe. They're going to go back to the monitor. I was just told.
Yes. Refs can ruin college basketball without necessarily having money on one team. So, but let's get back to, Drew, I said this to you during the game and I wrote it in instant reaction. When Caleb Grill hits his first 2 or 3 shots, I think 2 things. First of all, there's no such thing as a bad shot. If he wants to pull up from 47 feet, I'm fine with it. Second of all, nobody else should ever shoot the basketball unless it's a layup until he cools off.
I think that's pretty fair. Yeah. Caleb Grill now for the season is 44 for 90 from beyond the arc. And that's after how poor he was in the Memphis game, how awful he was against Howard from outside. So
I think he was 1 for 6 against Texas.
Yeah. So, I mean, the basket just looks huge to him right now. And it's, like we've been saying, it's really, really tough to stop him when he gets going. So, it is fair to be surprised when he misses a shot because of how well he's playing right now.
And it's not bad defense. I mean, sometimes he shoots the ball with the guy standing right there. There's nothing you can do. So I've come to expect that from Caleb Grill. The one that to me is even more encouraging is Tamar Bates tonight. I mean, that's the best game I've seen him have at Missouri because he has scored more, but he was doing it last year in meaningless games with no help whatsoever. He went out and scored 32 in a game Missouri lost because somebody has to score. But tonight it was 26, in the flow of the offense when nobody else was doing anything in the first 6 minutes. He scored 10 of their first 13 points. And then he inexplicably sat down for 6 minutes and whatever, but then came back and he had 13 or 14 points in 16 minutes in the second half. And just, I mean, I think it's the best game I've seen him play.
And you know what, Gabe? It's not surprising either. We kind of knew Bates was very capable of having this kind of a game, and we've been waiting for him to kind of step up and be like, I'm going to be the guy tonight. And it hasn't happened too often, but we've been screaming at him to shoot more, and tonight he finally did, and I think it paid off in a really, really big way for Mizzou.
Because tell me if you disagree with this. If you take either one of those guys off the court, Missouri's beaten this game.
Yeah, I mean, let's see. Tamar Bates was +1 in 28 minutes, and then Grill was +8. I mean, because we were looking at lineups where they had, I think, Josh Gray, Trent Pierce, Jacob Cruz, Caleb Grill, and Tony Perkins. And you were saying if Grill doesn't score, nobody is. So, like Dennis Gates said, they carried the team tonight.
Yeah. And, I mean, look, Trent Pierce didn't have it tonight. The shot wasn't falling. He made a couple in the second half, but overall, not his night. Mark Mitchell, not much of a game from him, honestly. Yeah. And that's okay. Like, guys are allowed to have off nights. Ant Robinson, I think, took one field goal attempt all night. Mm-hmm. You know, I mean, this was Grill and Bates, and everybody else come along for the ride. Where, I mean, the leading scorer outside of those two had 7 points.
Yeah. And that's coming off a game where, you know, Tamar Bates was the only one in double figures, and it's because he had a layup in garbage time against Texas. So, like, for him to step up and then Grill to supplant him, or not supplant, but complement him, like, I think that Mizzou, what has impressed me the most about the team this season, Gabe, is that they just figure out ways to win. Right. And like, it doesn't matter what kind of situation they get in where, you know, they might miss 11 free throws, or, you know, Ole Miss might get hot for a stretch. Like, they just figure out how to stay on top. And
they're the anti-South Carolina.
Exactly. But
go ahead. Yeah.
I think what's most impressive about it is that it's guys from last year's team who are helping them do it. Right, because last year they weren't ever able to get over the hump, and this year they're getting over the hump every single time, almost.
I want to address Kyle's question in a minute, so Billy, hang on to that one. I do want to say though, like, Drew,
they got
the strength of this team is still the depth, right? It's that on any given night they have like 7 different guys who can go for double figures. But I think Grill and Bates are turning into what Kobe and Demoy Hodge were for Dennis's first team, which is, okay, yeah, there are other guys that can do it. Like, one night Dre Golston might have 22, and one night Trey Gomillion might have a game and all that. So, like, Mark Mitchell, he's capable. Trent Pierce is going to have a night. Jacob Cruz might have a night, all that. But when it comes down to the big games that are going to be played in late February and March, this team is going to go where Caleb Grill and Tamar Bates take it.
Yeah, that's an accurate description, because, like, Mark Mitchell, I think, is capable of having big games, but he's not going to be able to ever put up, you know, 4 3-pointers in a game. He's not going to be a guy who could legitimately threaten to score 30 on a night, I don't think. But like I said, he's going to have his games, but Tamar Bates and Caleb Grills, those are the guys that can take you to another level when they're on. And they were both A+ tonight.
And they're also the guys that you can't survive, you know, 2 for 13 for 6 points out. I mean, like, look, that's what happened to Missouri against Princeton in the NCAA tournament. Kobe disappeared and Demoy wasn't making shots, and they just didn't have an answer. So, like, maybe you can survive an off night from one of them, maybe. But yeah, my point is, like, you can win on nights where Mark Mitchell is what he was tonight. You can beat a good team with Mark Mitchell not doing a lot. We've seen you can beat a good team with Ant Robinson or Tony Perkins not doing a lot. In these games Missouri's going to be playing over the next 2 months, I don't think you can beat a good team if Caleb Grill or Tamar Bates has 5 points.
Yeah, like, I think that, you know, one can make up for the other, right? Like, I think Mark Mitchell can step up if Tamar Bates or Caleb Grill is having an off night, but you need at least like double figures from both of those guys every single time out. Because if not, then yeah, it does put a lot of stress on the team to figure out, well, where are our other buckets coming from? And we haven't talked about this yet, Gabe, but like what they do on the glass has been really important as well. Like Tamar Bates specifically, to get 5 rebounds in a game where they out rebounded Ole Miss. Where's the number? 28-39.
Yeah.
Like, he's been really important. And obviously we knew what Caleb Grill was capable of on that end, but both of them have been really strong on the boards recently.
Yeah, this is clearly a better rebounding team than it has been. I'm a little hesitant to celebrate the rebounding margin tonight because Ole Miss was minus 39 in its last 2 games. Like, out rebounding Ole Miss is like out rebounding Missouri the last 2 years was. You absolutely should do it every single night out. So I don't want to put too much on that tonight. Now, if we can go back to Kyle's comment, because I feel like this is a good time for the show's comic relief.
Okay.
So it was something along the lines of Missouri leading the country in lane violations.
Yes.
Drew, I just watched a man go 0 for 4 from the free throw line in one trip.
Mhm.
Not like 0 for 4 for the game. One trip, Josh Gray 0 for 4 from the free throw line. And I'm not ashamed to say it's my favorite thing that's happened in this building this year. I enjoyed it so much. Like, I would have been disappointed if he would have made the 4th free throw.
Yeah, that was definitely the funniest thing I think I've seen while on the beat here. It happens every game too. Like,
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that's the 4th.
It's like 3 or 4
game.
games in a row.
Yeah, where they've gotten a lane violation. So, shouts to Josh Gray. And look, he went on to make a couple later on, but yeah, 0 for 4. That was funny.
I mean, it's like, it can't happen without a lane violation. You can't get 4 free throws. You can get 3, but you can't get 4. Now, look, for all the free throw trouble, and like you and I were talking with 8 minutes left, oh, they're going to lose this game, and the reason is going to be because they missed too many free throws.
Yeah.
They made 12 of their last 14 to salt that game away. So they do deserve credit for the game. What'd they shoot for the game? They were 72%. It's 28-39, not bad, right? Again, you take away 2 for 6 from Josh Gray, they're 26 for 33. You'll take 26 for 33 every single night. But like, boy, those first 30 minutes, you were thinking, man, getting there is fine, but getting there doesn't really matter if you can't make it pay off.
Yeah, and I thought what really made the difference was just the amount of times that they got there, and that's how it's going to be in most games with how physical they play. But if the refs weren't calling the second half as close as they did, I wonder if the result would be the same, right? If they had kept it kind of how they were calling it in the first half, where everything goes. Yeah, because like it was bad up until, like you said, the last 4 minutes or so.
But I'll defer to you on this because you watch more of other teams than I do, and I think you know more about their personnel and their style. So, yes, they were calling it tighter in the second half, but Ole Miss had all those same opportunities and didn't get there. Mm-hmm. So is that a credit to Missouri, or is that the last couple of years, everybody complained about how Missouri never shot as many free throws as the other team? Well, that's because they didn't drive. They just stood out on the three-point line and threw the ball up at the rim from 30 feet away. This year, this team, this is not an anomaly. This is what they do. Like, they went to Auburn and shot more free throws than Auburn. They're going to shoot more free throws than the other team the vast majority of the time. So is Ole Miss a team that just doesn't do that, or was that credit to the way Missouri played in the second half?
Yeah, I think it's a little bit of both, right? Like, Ole Miss is dead last in free throw rate in SEC play, so they're not a team that gets to the line much to begin with. But I do think Mizzou did a halfway decent job of not fouling, especially when they were driving to the rim. I felt like they missed a good amount of layups down there. For me, like, it's not so much that Mizzou had an edge, like that's pretty normal, but it was a 21 plus 21 edge on attempts, right? I think that's kind of what stands out to me.
Right, I do too. I also think 8 of those were basic intentional fouls.
Right.
Like
Yeah.
it's still an edge, but Ole Miss is down 9 points in the last 2 minutes trying to make it up, and that does make a difference. Should have said this at the beginning. Want to remind you all to like, comment, subscribe, share the show, all that. Just kind of get the word out. Appreciate over 250 of you being here with us on a Saturday night after this game, but put the word out and let people know, and we can get even more people here next time we do this. This feels like a good time to check in on the voicemail line, right? We know Tiger Terry probably has called, but hopefully we got a few others too. So Billy, if we're good, let's go ahead and hit the voicemail line for a few minutes.
Gabe, I know we're only halfway through the conference season, but my question for you is this: how much do you like this Mizzou team right now compared to other Mizzou teams we've seen in the last 8 or 10 years? And who do you think is the best player on this team, and who right now would have the best chance to make postseason SEC teams, whether it's first, second, or third team?
All right, I'll say first of all, I just want to start it by saying I like this team way more than I liked last year's team. It's much better. So Drew, I'll start with you there. Like, compare this last year, obviously, and obviously I have a little longer frame of reference, but just of the two competent Dennis Gates teams you've covered, compare this one to a couple years ago.
Yeah, so I would say that the first team had some higher highs, I guess. Like it was a little bit more fun to watch when they did catch fire and you saw Kobe and Demoy kind of drilling threes. But they also had the nights where like they couldn't hit anything if they threw the ball into the ocean, right? Like nothing would go in. So this team, I think, is a little bit more consistent, and that's what makes them a little bit more fun, is that you kind of know it's going to be a good game almost every time they step on the floor.
All right, I got to take issue here.
Okay.
I don't know that there are a lot of higher highs than winning in Gainesville and beating Kansas here. Like, the ceiling of this team, I think, is every bit as high as the ceiling of that team.
I was talking more of just the aesthetics of how they play, right?
Oh, okay.
That first team was a lot faster. They took a lot more threes. That's
okay.
That's what I meant by the higher highs.
Okay, I got you. Flashier. But yeah, I think that team had to play that way to win. When they weren't getting points off turnovers, or when the three wasn't shooting or falling, or God forbid, when they both weren't happening, that team was in deep trouble. I feel like this team has different ways to win. They can get to the line 40 times. They can shoot 60% from three. And disagree with me here if you do. That defense I saw tonight was pretty damn good. Like I think they can win a game with their defense.
Yeah. I mean, they almost did against Texas. Like I know that they didn't pull it out down the stretch, but like Texas wasn't really hitting any shots in that game either. And so yeah, like I think that this team defensive ceiling is the highest in the Dennis Gates era. I've said that before, but yeah, like I think that on a night like tonight where you really only have two guys going on offense, the defense really came in clutch today. Like 6 for 20 from three for Ole Miss. That's pretty good. You'll take that every time.
Yes. And I asked Dennis about this a little bit after the game. Like, just watching that game, my impression was this is as active as this team has been on defense. Like, they've had more steals in a game. They've held a team to a lower shooting percentage or fewer points, but like everything Ole Miss got seemed hard to me tonight. There was very little after that 8-0 start that came easily.
Yeah, and what's really impressive about that, Gabe, is like Ole Miss is not a team that turns the ball over very much. They're top 10 in offensive turnover percentage. And Mizzou they didn't win the turnover battle, but they got more steals. They had 12-10 on steals. So like, yeah, like who had it tonight? I think it was Mark Mitchell, right? Who had like a couple of strip steals in the post and didn't let Malik Dia get going much. Like those were really important tonight. So yeah, like really active hands on defense. I think that they've been doing a pretty good job all season there.
Yeah, and appreciate, by the way, Freeway Jared with the super chat, man. That's awesome. You're here for all of our shows, and definitely want to acknowledge you and say thanks for that. And again, we got 270 people online. Appreciate you all being here. We're getting through your chats, but going to go back to the voicemail line, see what's next.
Gabe, John from Kansas City here. So excited for a big win. I've said it before. I will say it again. This team is fun. And they get hit in the mouth. Ole Miss shot 8 terrible points to start the game. Ole Miss up 8-0. I think Mizzou goes on a 12-0 run. They're ready to get hit in the mouth. They're ready to respond. Very fun team. My wife happens to be an Ole Miss fan. We came to the game today. We come every year. The game is in Columbia. So there's a house divided. But one thing we are not divided on is how Josh Gray needs to start shooting his free throws.
Underhanded.
He needs to shoot these free throws underhanded. My man, like if the entire arena freaks out if you hit a free throw, we got to change something up. But other than that, very happy for the win. MIZ.
I want Josh Gray to keep doing exactly what he's doing. I enjoy the hell out of it. But I will say Callum McAndrew from the Columbia Tribune sits next to me during games. He suggested underhand. Apparently John Sunvold said it on TV. So these folks are not alone. Shout out to, I think, our first wife appearance on the voicemail line. So I like that. John's point is right, though. And also I want to kind of tie it in with the question I never answered from the previous caller. This team's a lot of fun. Even when they don't, the Texas game notwithstanding, that was painful and hideous. But for the most part, they are fun to watch. It's an enjoyable team to watch. And I don't know that they will win more games or go further than the team did 2 years ago. But I think this is the best Missouri basketball team since 2011, 2012, which was Frank Case's first team that won 30 games and lost to Norfolk in the first round.
Who do you think is making the all SEC team? That's the other question we didn't answer. I mean, I think it's Bates and Grill.
If you lead the country in 3-point percentage, if you're Grill, you got to make one of them, don't you?
Yeah. I don't know that anyone's playing at a high enough level to make the first team, but second and third team, I think, are pretty open.
And I think they finally did adjust that they only actually allow 5 people on the first team as opposed to 8, which was stupid because if you could put 8 guys on the court at once, you'd be amazing.
Yes. So it is 3 5-man teams.
Okay.
So I would say Grill for sure. I think that Mitchell and Bates probably have a good chance at a second or probably a third team for those two guys. But yeah,
so many good players in this league though. Jason Edwards from Vandy, dude, even if Vandy doesn't win as many games as Missouri does, he's on my list. Asa Newell from Georgia, he's got a shot. There's just a lot of really good players in this league.
Yeah. I'd agree.
All right, let's go hit the next voicemail.
Short and sweet. FBI needs to investigate the SEC league office for embezzlement because I don't know how you have the best basketball conference, maybe ever, and at the same time have the most inept, unqualified officials ever at the same time. Where's all this TV money going? Short and sweet.
It was they're bad. They just and again, the thing I hate is we got to figure out a way for coaches challenges or something. Well, I watched the end of South Carolina, Mississippi State today. There were 6 replays in the last minute and a half. It was stupid. It made me not want to watch the game.
That's fair. I don't mind the replays so much. I did tell you I think they should bring back the technical fouls for flopping. Because that one that Padula got away with was one of the worst I've ever seen. That was bad. But yeah, like you want to change it to a coach's challenge, that's fine too. I'm kind of ambivalent about it.
Well, and the problem with the coach's challenge, though, is like in football, there's a natural time you do it. There's a stop to every play. In basketball, how do you do it if it's not a dead ball? Like, you can't throw a challenge flag in the middle of the other team going down the floor. So I get the difficulty of it. But here's my problem with a replay. And I said this to you during the game. So with like a minute 55 left, there was a ball that Trent Pierce had on the baseline, and the Ole Miss player knocked it out, and it went out of bounds, right?
Yeah.
They give the ball to Missouri. And then they go to replay, and they slow it down frame by frame and zoom in, and technically it rolled off of Trent Pierce's finger like a half second later than the Ole Miss guy hit it. That's been Missouri's ball in basketball for 90 years. We don't have to do this with I think there should be a limited number of times, and just I think the coaches should have to ask, I want that reviewed. Each coach gets 2 times to say, I want to play reviewed at a dead ball. You can't review a live ball thing. You get 2 chances. I want that reviewed. Once you've used the 2, you're done. You use them in the first half, we're finished. We don't have to. It's like the call in baseball where he overslid the bag and his finger came off the base for 3/100ths of a second, and the shortstop still had his glove. That guy should not be out. We're leaning on this too much.
Patrick Beverly had a pretty similar play when the NBA was in the bubble during the playoffs, where he kind of hit the ball out of Devin Booker's hand. They called it off Beverly, but technically it rolled off of Booker's hand last on the replay. And that's, I believe, the play that made the NBA go to an NBA, a coach's challenge. So maybe that's the one, the play with Trent Pierce will make college go to coach challenges as well.
And here's what I most hate about it. Like, this was a good basketball game. These are 2 good teams that are going to be in the NCAA tournament. I don't want to spend a bunch of time talking about the stupid refs.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
All right. Billy, I don't know how many voicemails we got, but let's keep rolling if we got more.
What a game. Another Mizzou home game, another win. Makes it 15 straight. It's starting to become hollowed ground out there again. After last year, it was tough not winning a single one at home in the SEC. I feel like we should have taken at least a few of those. And then, question to the room, who is more impactful when they get hot? Is it Caleb or is it Tamar? Because I think it goes, I'd lean Tamar just the way he can, when he's in attack mode, how he can change the game just offensively and defensively. But it's got to be close between the 2. MIZ.
What do you think, Drew?
My gut said Caleb Grill, just because he doesn't think about shooting. He just shoots. Tamar thinks about it sometimes.
Tamar is a high volume scorer in the traditional sense that we're used to. He can't score 14 points in 2 minutes, I don't think. And I think Caleb Grill could.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, Caleb Grill has legitimate in the gym range. Like, if he pulled up from half court, I would not argue with it.
Yeah, like just keep taking heat checks further and further back, like that kind of thing.
Like, after he makes his first 2 or 3 shots, like, so his first shot of the day was a 3, but he traveled, and that was a good call. He did travel.
He made it too.
But he made the 3, right? And then he made a mid-range, and made like a 17-footer. And I said to you, he's made 2 in a row now. Like, and then he made a 3, and then it was heat check time. And I don't care if he's open. I don't care if he's guarded. I don't care if he's falling down. I don't care if he shoots it left-handed. Once 3 shots go in for that kid, there is nothing that qualifies as a bad shot for me.
Yeah, I think that's very valid. And then just to look at the other side of the court, I think that Tamar is a little bit more disruptive on defense, right? I think he's had multiple games with like 5 steals, and has been improved on the rebounding front. But I think Caleb Grill brings a lot more energy on that side, and makes a bigger impact on the glass.
I mean, the play he made also on defense, like Ole Miss had a breakaway, and he just goes down and slaps the ball directly out of the guy's hand,
Yeah.
right under the basket. Like, that's an underrated play. And Grill is the more complete player, I think.
I would agree with that. Yeah.
Yeah. Drew, I have devastating news I've got to deliver to you.
Okay.
We didn't get a Tiger Terry voicemail today.
Oh my gosh, Terry.
Do we think Terry is he out on a date? Is he celebrating Kansas's loss? What's happening with Terry?
Terry right now, I think maybe he's like so overjoyed about the win that he fainted. Is that a possibility?
It's possible. I think what was he doing last game? Like he was
in
running
Arkansas.
hogs with his
Yeah.
with his in-laws. Yeah, I mean, I think I think there's, I don't know. I feel like maybe he and his in-laws are making moonshine tonight or something.
Yeah, that's
And he
probably
just
a good guess.
over imbibed a little bit, maybe. I'm disappointed though. I know the crowd is disappointed. It's tough news, but we're going to go ahead and try to move on. Do want to remind you guys that we are brought to you by the Bruning Law Firm here on our post-game shows all season long, and you can get in touch with them for a free consultation at 573-400-2796. That is 573-400-2796. Huge Mizzou fans. Let them know when you call that you heard about them here on Power Mizzou. They're going to do the best they can for you. If you're in, again, we hope you're not in a position to need a personal injury lawyer. They certainly hope you're not in that position. But if you are, can't recommend AJ and the folks at the Bruning Law Firm highly enough. 573-400-2796. So we've spent most of the night on this game, Drew. Let's, in the last few minutes, kind of spin it forward to big picture here. How important was this one?
I mean, as important as the rest, I guess. Like you're trying to get to 8, right? And this was number 5. You're more than halfway there to kind of clinch up an NCAA tournament spot. As far as it goes, like in the schedule, like they've got some pretty. This is going to be the toughest stretch of the year, in my opinion. You're at Mississippi State, at Tennessee, and then home for Texas A&M. Those are 3 pretty good teams. You probably want to win at least one of those. But so to end January on a win and bounce back from the Texas game, this was a pretty good victory for Mizzou.
I want to say Mitchell M points out that Terry might be at Norm's birthday party, 90th birthday party. In spring. So I like that. That's the one we're going to go with. But yeah, I think it was huge because, well, first of all, like it avoids a losing streak, right? Like you said, you want to avoid getting swept. You didn't lose 2 in a row. You lost a game at Texas. It was a tough game. It was on the road. You came back and won. I think that's the first thing. But you mentioned those 3 games coming up. Let's say worst case scenario, you lose in Starkville, you lose in Knoxville, and then you come home and Texas A&M gets you, right? Those are like, that's 4 straight games against top 20 teams. Ole Miss was 16th. A&M, I'm not sure exactly where they're at. Tennessee's top 10, Mississippi State's top 15. So even if you lose those 3, you're 500 in the SEC, and all you got to do is 3-5 the rest of the way, and the schedule lightens up. Like this one allowed the margin. It allowed you to have a little bit of a losing streak. But after those 3 games, it's Oklahoma at home, at Georgia, which we were talking earlier today. I think Georgia is going to be that team that we look at and go, I feel like they should be in the NCAA tournament, but they were just a victim of this league and they lost too many. So, like, I think if you can get one of the next three, I think it is absolutely phenomenal. But I don't think it's necessary anymore. I think today allows you, worst case scenario to not kill you.
Yeah, that's pretty valid because kind of like you mentioned, you got Georgia and Oklahoma. You play Arkansas again. You play Vanderbilt again. So, like, those are all winnable games for you. And like you said, if you end up losing all of your next three, it's only a 3-game losing streak instead of a 5-game losing streak. And so that's going to be helpful with kind of the confidence level of everybody, even if things turn sideways.
Drew, would you like to hear something relatively disgusting?
Go for it.
Halftime, Auburn 22, Tennessee 20.
Ugh.
That's brutal, man.
That's gross.
But look, so let's talk about, like I said, if Missouri, if the postseason tournament started today, Missouri would be the 3 seed because they would win the tiebreaker over Florida. I feel like we yo-yo on this, right? Like last week we sat here and talked about, hey, top 4 seed, can it happen? And then they lose at Texas Tuesday night, and it's, oh my God, can they make the NCAA tournament? And now we're back. I mean, I don't see any reason this team's goal shouldn't be top 4 in this league.
Yeah, that might change if they don't, if they go on a 3-game losing streak here. I think that would change, but
sure, yeah.
But yeah, like this is a team that's capable of beating anybody in this league. That's what I think is important here. So they're not going to win every game. We saw that against Texas, but they're going to win enough. And if best case scenario, they win more than we're expecting them to, like, then yeah, we're talking about a top 4, top 5 seed.
Yeah, somebody just said at Georgia's a tougher game than we're giving it credit for. I'm not trying to breeze past that. That is not an easy game. It's on the road. Georgia's already beaten Kentucky at home. Like, they're a solid team. They will probably be favored in that game. Could absolutely win that game. I'm just talking, it's easier than at Mississippi State or at Tennessee. It's probably on par or maybe easier than A&M at home. I mean, this league has no easy games.
Mm-hmm. Right, because like right now, Mizzou's biggest chance to win is at home against South Carolina, and South Carolina just dragged Mississippi State into overtime today. So there aren't any easy wins, and like losses are gonna be really tough to be dealt. Right, you got to figure out ways to respond to it.
But I mean, Drew, if we stick with what we've been saying all year, Missouri can go 3-8 the rest of the year and feel pretty good it's in the NCAA tournament.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, if again, I think I said after the Arkansas game, if you had told me this team made the tournament, I would not be shocked. If you had told me I was calling it on, January 18th at that time, I'd have been shocked.
Right, that's fair. And like that's the thing too is they have levels they can play to above that, right?
Right.
Like 3-8 gets you in, but 3-8 right now would be kind of disappointing, I think. Is that fair?
Oh, for sure. You don't want to go 3-8. Yeah, absolutely. Like, I think the goal should be 5-6 or 6-5. That gives you 10 or 11 wins in this league.
Yeah. So
I think it should probably be 6-5. That's your
6-5. I think that's fair. So yeah, like I think the expectation kind of keeps rising every week, and that's after they played their worst game of the season against Texas, and that expectation kind of still went up this week.
All right, I want to finish out with this. Where would you put Dennis Gates in your SEC Coach of the Year conversation right now?
I got to think about it. Can you tell me what you think first? I'll give you my answer after.
I'd probably put him second. Bruce Pearl has such an unbelievable team that I think I'd probably go with Bruce Pearl. Especially if they go through this league at like 16-2 or better. I have a hard time saying it's not him. But there's nobody else I would get to before Gates after Bruce Pearl.
I think I'm in lockstep with you there. Like if Auburn runs the table, Bruce Pearl's the guy, no question. But yeah, Dennis Gates has a very good case, especially if Auburn ends up dropping a couple.
Here's the only thing I think, like, I don't think last year should factor into it, right? Like, you don't get a head start on Coach of the Year because you were historically awful last year. He has built a very good team, and he has done it I don't want to say largely from scratch, because he does have some guys back. I mean, Robinson, Pierce, and Bates were all here, so he's got 3 of his 5 starters from last year's team. I think he's done a hell of a job. I just don't think part of the argument should be you went 0-18 last year.
No, that's fair, but you can argue that they were voted bottom 3, bottom 4 in the league in the preseason poll.
13th, I think, yeah.
13th, yeah. And right now they're tied. They're in the top 4. So based on that, like, the expectation has been way surpassed, right?
Was Auburn picked to win the league? Do you remember?
I think Alabama was, but Auburn was probably still top 3.
Okay. Yeah.
So Alabama and Auburn.
I would not argue with Dennis, especially like if Auburn loses 3 or 4 in the second half of the season and they still win the league, but they're like 15-3 or 14-4. If Dennis Gates wins 11 games, absolutely give me Dennis Gates as Coach of the Year. I think 11 wins is the threshold for me to vote for him in all likelihood.
Yeah, I was trying to think if there was anyone else who you could make an argument for, and maybe it's Todd Golden, but I think he's a pretty distant third right now.
That feels creepy. What about Mark Byington?
Yeah, so I guess it depends on.
Like, I'm not sure people understand what he took over. Like,
that's
Jerry
true.
Stackhouse, man, that was a train wreck of a program. Not just on the court, but there was nothing there. And Byington has made them, like, I think they're an NCAA tournament team.
I could see it. Yeah, he completely rebuilt the roster this season, so like that's all him. But I don't know that Vanderbilt's going to get to the same level that Missouri could end up getting to.
That's fair. I think the other guy that might be mentioned for similar reasons would be Mark Pope, but I just think look, maybe it's not fair to him, but it's a lot easier to rebuild a roster at Kentucky than it is at Vandy.
Yeah. And also they lost to Vandy today.
Right. Yeah. So yeah, they're sub 500 in the league. So,
well, they
all right.
500.
Are they? Okay.
They're 3-3.
Whatever. I'm going to say they're 3-4. All right, guys. Appreciate everybody hanging.
Counts twice. Counts as
no, that's
losses.
mean. I like Vandy, man. Byington's done a good job. That is overly cruel on your part. But all right, want to thank everybody for hanging out here with us after this one. Again, Missouri an 83-75 winner. They're off for a week. We're gonna do, as of now, planning a Monday night live show. So we'll do some talking about Missouri. Then Drew's going to have to get a little creative with the content this week because no game until next Saturday. Do want to mention, by the way, Jackson Cantwell was here at this game, #1 football prospect in the country in 2026. So can say I saw him. We'll try to catch up with him in the next couple days. Drew's got writing to do. I've got writing to do. Just want to remind you on the way out the door of a couple of things. First of all, like, comment, subscribe, share, do all of those things. If you're listening on the podcast, tell your friends about it and leave us a nice review on Spotify or on Apple Podcasts. Just as important, get in touch with our friends. Well, don't just like call them just for the hell of it. But if you find yourself needing a personal injury lawyer, if you're in a situation where you've been hurt and you need somebody to help you out, get in touch with our friends at the Bruning Law Firm. Call them at 573-400-2796 for a free consultation. They're going to use data and their years of experience in the field to get you the money you deserve, get your life back on track. Tell them you heard about them on Power Mizzou. They're huge Tiger fans. I'm sure they'd love to talk to you about Mizzou basketball. So appreciate everybody for hanging out, and we will, talk to you some other time. Bye.